Joint Committee for the DPW search. Attendance.
Hey, Peter, could you mute?
Good call.
Thank you. Go ahead, Robert. We had a lot of
attendance. Mr. Ron Cole.
Here.
Mr. Joe Papalarczyk.
Here.
And Mr. Tom Pereira.
Here.
Gentlemen, meeting with us tonight are 3 candidates. Randomly put them in order of Mr. John Hume, Mr. Robert Tober, and Mr. Kelvin Ridgely. As discussed earlier, this will be a semi-structured interview. I am simply here for administrative purposes, and I will be asking a series of 8 questions, the same questions to each candidate. You, as members of the committee, are completely allowed to delve deeper into these questions, so go down a path, ask sub-questions, whatever you need to do. Do I have any questions from the interview panel?
No,
thank you.
Okay, at this time, Mr. John Hume, we are going to get started. If you could please take a second to introduce yourself to the committee.
Yes, great. Thank you. Again, sorry that didn't work earlier, but it's nice to meet everybody. And thank you for having me, tonight for the meeting, for the interview for the DPW director. As Robert said, my name is John Hume. I have a BS degree from the University of Maine. I have a master's degree in civil engineering from Northeastern University, and I am also a professional engineer, with a PE stamp. I have been working in Massachusetts my entire life, working career, and which is over 25 years. And I have also am currently working as the assistant DPW director for the town of Saugus. And throughout my working career, I've also been involved with consulting engineering companies. But with the working as the assistant DPW director, for the town of Saugus, I am currently planning, all the daily work activities for a lot of the same departments that you guys have in, Westfield, which it would include forestry, parks and recreation, water, water and sewer, and cemeteries and engineering. We have a stormwater. So as I said, I have a lot of similar workshops that you guys have, and I want to take that experience that I have been gaining at the town of Saugus, to you guys and help to benefit you guys. I also have a lot of experience, presenting in front of public meetings like we are presenting right now, and developing budgets and talking into city councilors and DPW boards, and I feel comfortable, dealing with and talking with all those boards.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Do we have any follow-on questions from the committee?
Yeah, I have a quick question, Robert. So, John, I see, in your resume that you've moved around from, consulting, kind of like you described, to now working for the town of Saugus. What drove you to make that change?
So one of the thank you for the question. One of the reasons that I made the change, is I really love working. I love my job, and I love working with people and dealing with people and helping to answer their questions. I have worked throughout my career. I have worked with many municipal and DPW directors. Some of the DPW directors are my close friends to this day. But I really, as I said, I really love, working and helping people as much as I can. So that's why I transitioned from, the engineering to the municipal side. And as I said, I love it and, would love the opportunity to come and work for you guys.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
you walk us through your experience with inclement weather and or snow operations?
I have a lot of experience with snow and operations. I actually from Maine originally. So I get a lot of snow up there, as you can imagine. And I used to plow snow for my dad's contractor company up there. So I have a lot of experience, with snow. And in this past, time when I've been working, for the town of Saugus, I have led all of these snow meetings, and was working with our highway foreman, and working with deciding, when we call the plows in to plow the snow. So I was making that call as well. And, it's like he has a lot of experience. He, has been plowing snow for the town for like 25 years. So what I did was I offered to drive around the town to make sure I understand exactly, what the plowing routes were. And if I were to get elected to the city of Westfield, I would offer, that same thing to the current, highway department, where I would drive around and learn his streets and his routes and on how he does it, and would offer, any comments that I have in regards to, but I have a lot of experience, with snow and ice. And as I said, I led the operations, this past, winter and a half.
Do you have any follow-on questions? Hearing none. Our Public Works Department has several diverse sub-departments, i.e. water, highway, land, natural resources, and a host of others. Which area of Public Works do you have the least experience with, and what would you do to remedy this?
Okay. I would say, the least experience would be probably forestry and parks and recreation. Because primarily I've been focused, my career has been focused on, water, wastewater, and highway projects. So so the least experience would be forestry and parks and recreation. And to fix that, I would, take whatever classes that are out there to even further learn, those departments, and, to gather, so I can, enhance my knowledge of those departments. And I like to learn. I've been learning my entire year. I've been learning my entire career. And I like, I always think that it's important. You always need to learn when you advance through, the stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any follow-on questions?
John, do you hold any certifications and or licenses, operator in either water or wastewater?
Other than being a professional engineer, I'm currently taking the class that become a water certification. So I should have that, the next, I just got to take the test. I haven't taken the test. So it's one thing that I want to get, added to my list. So I should have it soon once I take that test.
What is that specifically, John? Water certification?
Yeah, water certification. So I just recently went through the course that was offered at UMass, where you have to go through this course as one of the requirements in order to take a D2 or D3 or D4 level of water. So.
Okay,
so
yeah, so got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Communication within your department and across departmental lines is very important. What methods would you use to communicate with your employees, and how would you involve them in the decision-making process?
I agree. Communication is key. And in regards to, so I like to communicate, I think face to face is the best way to communicate to somebody, especially if it's an important message that I want to get delivered. And if, so I would request that, the person come and meet with me to sit down and discuss, whatever message that I want to, deliver to them. If it's something that can be held with an email, then that's fine. But I like to meet with people face to face and, communicate whatever the issue that may come up.
Any follow-on questions?
None here, Robert.
Can you describe your experience preparing a departmental operating budget and monitoring cost expenditures for adherence to establish financial goals and objectives?
Yeah, so I have a lot of experience with developing budgets and making sure that the budgets are approved, whether it be for a department or I recently was working with at the town of Saugus, where I was developing our department, the budget for the DPW there, and I'm using that learning experience as I to grow and work developing additional budget. Plus, I also have 20 years of other experience working and developing budgets for other municipal projects, and so I'm very experienced with doing the budgets, and currently working with the town of Saugus, and I've been working with our department DPW director.
How many budget cycles, John, have you gone through with the town of Saugus?
6.
Any other follow-on questions?
Thank you.
None here, Robert.
Okay. Please share with me an example of how you helped to coach or mentor someone. What improvements did you see in the person's knowledge or skills?
All right. So there was one of the projects, that I am currently, working on, for the town is for the town of Saugus, where one of the guys didn't think he had the ability to be able to do the job. So I sat with him and sat down with him and said that, helped him a little bit and encouraged him. That's all he needed really, was just to get a little more encouragement in order to, nobody ever gave any confidence in him, so I sat down and said, with a meeting, as I said, I like to talk face to face. So I had a meeting with him and was like, yeah, you can really do this. I think it's not that. So I worked with him and, helped him get through this task. So, and I think it was successful.
Thank you.
A little along those lines, John, as the DPW director, you'd be overseeing everyone, all the department heads and all the, everyone underneath them. What would you say your management style is like?
So I would like to say I'm as I said previously, I like to talk face to face with somebody and meet with them personally. I would also, set up, I would set up, like, if we don't have anything already established, I would set up like a mentoring program where I would set up annual, reviews of the staff to meet with them and come up with a plan for their career goals. And I believe, and I would do annual reviews based off of what they want for their goals. Because I think that everybody, wants ownership of something, wants to be proud of something. And if you make them part of, being part of the city of Westfield, they're going to take that and want to run with it. And they're going to want to bring people, to the city of Westfield to come work for the city, and they want to stay there, a long time,
Thank you.
Yeah.
So within Saugus, I mean, so I guess my question is, how large was that department? And how many folks would you say were under your, call it, span of control that reported to you directly, John?
So there's 23 people that work for the town of Saugus. And so I plan, as I said earlier, I plan daily work activities for most of them, and the foreman as well. So I plan to have daily meetings, with the foreman first, and then first thing in the morning, I meet with them, and then we'll go down to the staff, as necessary. So anytime it could be, as I said, 14 people,
So
based off of just like the foreman and stuff like that.
So did the whole department report directly to you, or the foreman? So was it a hierarchical structure where?
Yeah.
So the foreman reported to you.
Yeah. And then
the
there's
front line reported to the foreman.
Yeah.
Is that the way it worked?
Yeah. But we also have meetings, where everybody's there and I'm giving direction to everybody. That happens often because, in the DPW world, the stuff happens, and every single day is a different, challenge to everybody, so certainly. So every day is different. So, which is one of the things why I want to, be a municipal job.
John, does Saugus have a water and wastewater treatment plant?
No, they don't. They get their water from MWRA.
Okay. Thank you.
But I know you guys have a wastewater and a water treatment plant. So I have a lot of experience designing both water and wastewater plants and understand exactly the issues with, that are coming, whether it be PFAS in the water or in wastewater, whether it's microconstituents, dealing with those issues that could be coming down the road. So as I said, I'm so very experienced, with both of those. I've actually been to your plants before too.
So in Saugus, from a collection system standpoint, on the sanitary side, you guys just have gravity systems and pump stations to send it to another community to treat?
Yeah. So the gravity system, pump stations, and the main pump station pumps over to Lynn for the sewer system.
Thank you.
So within your previous roles within project management, did you have any direct reports in any of those, in any of those roles?
Could you say the question again?
With the previous roles you had as project manager, within the project management roles, did you have any direct reports, any people that reported to you in those jobs?
Yeah. Yep. So I had, there was 10 people who I used to mentor, and they were responsible to me on a daily basis. So I was responsible for planning, their workloads every single day, similar to what I'm doing now for the most part. But yeah, so and I enjoy mentoring, younger staff as well. So.
Okay.
And I had all kinds of, range of engineers. I had people who had, 10 years experience that reported to me, and some people who had, 5 years, and some people that were like 2 years experience. So they all different range. So I'm used to dealing with people of, of different, needs, because, that was who I've been. And I enjoy that. I do. I enjoy, talking to people and, mentoring young people and staff and setting up goals. As I said earlier, one of my goals would be, to set up a mentoring program, for the town, if there isn't one already established, for the guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, can you please describe your experience in labor management relations, including negotiating and administering labor contracts and working with unionized employees?
Yeah, so I have a lot of experience, working with unionized employees in labor management. I know it's important, to follow the contract. And I have, was just recently looking at the contract that we have currently, and it's about, to expire. So we're going to have to be renegotiating, that contract. But it's important, to follow, the terms of the contract. Otherwise, you could, you get in trouble for sure.
Okay. Can you please describe your experience working with diverse personnel issues?
And diverse personnel issues? Yes. So I do, have a lot of experience, dealing with diverse personnel issues. Having everybody pull in the same direction can definitely, be a challenge. And, so what I like to do is I like to lead by example, and, talk to the person. And, if I have any, if they have whatever their issue was, I like to try to, talk to them and figure out exactly, what their issue was, and, have them kind of pull them in the right direction, and so figure out what their issue is, as I said, pull them in the right direction. That makes sense?
Any follow-on questions from the committee?
Actually, I have a follow-up question on the previous question. I'm sorry for not asking it then. Regarding the labor contracts and unionized employees, have you gone through any specific, have there been any new contracts at Saugus while you've been there that you've negotiated with the union, based on whatever it is, maybe benefits, whatever, and how does that, what are some strategies you've utilized in negotiating?
So there has been one, negotiating session that I was there for with at Saugus, and some of these strategies, that I use, was just making sure, like dealing with, the people that setting the time periods and stuff, reporting at 7:30 to 4 o'clock, or 4:15, and making sure they follow, or have, whether it be and what's cut out, for lunch periods and stuff like that. So, so I, was involved, with pulling all that together and making sure, they when they're their half hour, their lunch period starts, at 11:30, so 11:30 to 12:30. So I was, involved with negotiating, that.
Kind of a follow-up question to that. What strategies have you employed when you have employees that aren't following, the contract and aren't doing, necessarily what they should be doing?
That happens all the time. I see people doing that all the time anyways. So what I do, usually it's the same person that I see doing that too. So what I do is I try to make sure that they understand that, they can't, come around, at or earlier than 11:30. That, their lunch period is from 11:30 to 12:30, and that's it. You need to stick to that. And I have, if they weren't sticking to that, like I said, there was one person in particular who I, had some issues with, and so I had to reported him, because he kept, after numerous warnings, he just wasn't following the direction of, hey, you can't be around here at noontime. You got to get outside.
So I guess how as a manager do you approach that conversation?
It's a tough conversation, sure. And as a, but you have to, as I said, what I typically do in those situations is talk to the person face to face and have a conversation, directly with them and say, hey, we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want the same goals for the town. We all want to, help the public. So that's why we're here. But if you're not helping if you're not helping if you're leaving every day at 2:00 in the afternoon. So they're hard to have, but
Yeah, I can imagine in any work setting, they're inevitable. And, in my opinion, it's how you approach the conversation is crucial, to a successful outcome. So thank you for describing that.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's how I'd handle it.
Any more follow-on questions?
I've got one. So we've talked about this a little bit in terms of this being a departmental role. Can you give me an example of where you've been in a situation where the teams didn't function well together, and things didn't go as planned? Tell me about a time when you were in this situation. What did you do to help overcome those obstacles?
So sometimes that does happen, and things don't ever always go the way you want to plan. So the way I had to address this issue in the past is trying to get everybody on the same page and say, hey, we're all working, we have one owner, and that's the town. So I try to get everybody pulling together and say, look, guys, we all have to pull together in the same direction. There's one town that we're all working for. So that's how I addressed that issue in the past. And the more tough conversations, like I was talking earlier, but the conversations that have to be held, especially at the management level. And I'm not at any. I'm used to having those conversations and willing to have that conversation.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, last, we're interviewing a few people for this position. Why should we choose you?
Well, I think you should choose me, for the position. Is based off of my experience. I have over 25 years, working in Massachusetts, and I'm a professional engineer. I have experience working on every single project, that you guys are looking for. I've done that, project, whether it be water, wastewater, transportation, drainage, or II project of fats, oils, and greases, or I have experience working on every single project that may come up or any issue that may come up. And I am also have, experience, I have a master's degree in civil engineering, and a bachelor's degree. And I know what it takes, to get a project done on time and under budget. I am also experienced, presenting in front of boards, like you guys, like we are at this interview, and very comfortable, dealing with, DPW director or boards, or, city councils, or whatever it may be, public meetings. I've been doing this my entire life, working career.
Okay, that is all the questions we have for you, Mr. Hume. Thank you for taking your time to meet with us tonight. Obviously, we're going to interview our other candidates, and we'll reach out soon to let you know what path we're going to take moving forward.
Okay, great. When do you think you may be making that decision? Will that be?
Honestly, I will meet with the committee here. Hopefully, we'll have a path forward by the end of the week.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And as I said, I enjoyed meeting everybody. Talking with you about the city of Westfield, and I look forward, to seeing you guys all again.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Good night,
John.
guys. Yep. Bye.
Take care. Robert, did you see that
I
email?
did that Steve's not going to be joining us. Okay.
Well, what he said was he couldn't. He
Oh,
couldn't
you
get on.
couldn't
the
get
Zoom.
on? Sorry.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Hey, Robert, are Kelvin and Robert Tober, Kelvin Ridgely and Robert Tober, are they able to listen to the interviews, or
Yes, they are.
they are? Okay, so it's open to everybody.
That's correct.
I mean, I assumed that when I saw them, but I thought that was I've never seen an interview process like that. It's interesting.
You know, it's interesting. I was up with Shanna in law talking to her about I think it was a week or two ago, we were going to try this. And she called down afterwards and said that this is the way that we need to be doing it.
Really?
Yes.
Jeez.
And I'm a big fan of listening to lawyers. So, okay. Does anybody need a break before we move forward with Mr. Robert Tober?
No, I'm good for. I might need one after Robert.
Yeah, I agree. I can get one more.
Fair enough. Mr. Tober, are you ready to go, sir?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Got a little background.
There.
My screen,
There's a little feedback. Do you have your speaker on?
I do have my speaker on, but I do have a computer that has a little bit of a whining noise to it. The jet. It sounds kind of like a jet, but I don't know how well you can hear me.
You hear the whining
Yeah.
noise?
Oh,
We
yeah.
definitely hear that.
I don't know if that's going to stop or not, but if that's going to affect things, I can call in too.
I'm okay with moving forward if everybody else is okay.
We'll suffer through.
Fair enough. Okay, Mr. Tober, sir. Always nice to put a face with the name. Please tell us about your background, education, experience, and how these make you qualified for this position.
Well, I started my career in public service with the town of Holliston. You won't see that on my resume. This goes back before the 10, 15 years that you have or see there. I was the public facilities supervisor for the town of Holliston, and I worked there for at least 3 years, if not longer. And I worked in the public facilities area, which included parks, trees. We worked with the highway department, but we were a separate department, and of course we took care of all the property management for the town. I've also worked currently with the town of Adams, where I'm DPW director there, and I've also worked in construction for over 20 years. I had my own business called New England Barn Structures, and Tober Landscape Construction and Maintenance for 7 years. I worked for a number of contractors prior to that too, including Fafford Construction Company and Lane Management and Construction out of Southborough. So I have a lot of experience in construction, which included water and civil service projects. I have a master's degree in business from Framingham State University, and I have a bachelor's from Boston University, a major in business administration and a minor in finance. As far as qualifications, I have a Class A CDL. I've had that 15, 20 years. I have a hoisting license, 2A. These are all active licenses. I have OSHA card, active DOT medical card. And up until I think it was about 2016, I had a construction supervisor's license for about 10 years. I let that go.
Okay. Any follow-on questions for Mr. Tober?
None here, Robert.
Okay. Next up, can you walk us through your experience with inclement weather and or snow operations?
I'll start with the most relevant ones. Again, with the town of Holliston, I started off in the trackless and did the sidewalks, and I also had a plow route. I had a Ford dump truck, and I plowed is one of about eight routes. I also cleared the facilities, the town buildings, with the sidewalk plow as well as manually, snow plowing and snow shoveling. So I've done a little bit of everything there. I've worked the large pieces of equipment also, wind plows, so I've got a lot of experience with snow plowing operations. I was also interim highway superintendent during one winter where it was actually operating and leading the snow operations. We had a great SOP system. We had all our routes down on paper, how long it would take.
We lost you, Robert.
Yeah,
We can't hear you.
can't hear you.
Hold on, let me see what I can do here.
Okay, you're back.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're back.
So for the town of Holliston, we have standard operating procedure for all the routes. Everybody had their own routes, and we would get called in and take care of those snow management. For my own business, I did snow plowing also. I had private contracts, commercial properties, as well as residential. Did that for 7 years. And so I've got about 15 years of snow management experience. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Any follow-on questions for Mr. Tober? Okay. Our Public Works Department has several diverse sub-departments: water, highway, land, natural resources, and a host of others. Which area of Public Works do you have the least experience with, and what would you do to remedy this?
Probably the water department. I didn't work directly for water departments. For instance, the town of Adams, we have a district, and I work closely with John Barrett, our water superintendent. So we work as a team. When he needs assistance, we help him, and vice versa. So I've got a lot of experience in terms of what's involved with the water, maintenance and construction there. Again, I also work for FAFA. We did a lot of construction, civil work, and for the town of Holliston also, like, we work closely with the water department. They had an in-town water department there, but it was separate. So we worked, as a partnership with them. So that would be my area of least experience. As far as remedying it, whatever license is necessary. I'm currently working now on getting my Massachusetts purchasing license on the third of the last of the 3 classes that's required to become a professional purchasing agent for the state of Massachusetts. I should have that at the end of July. And I will do that the same for the water department, whatever certification is required for.
Thank you. Any follow-on questions?
Robert, so you guys don't have, I know you have a separate water district up in North Adams, but from the wastewater side, so that falls under the DPW?
No, yes, the wastewater, we have our own treatment plant here. We've extended aeration facility, and we're currently going through a capital improvement plan right now, working with Ty and Bond on that. It's about a $5 million project, and we're in the middle of that.
So. Okay.
One of my direct reports is the superintendent for wastewater. I have 7 direct reports, but I'll get into that shortly.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Westfield obviously is a very large city. It has a large sanitary sewer system, collection system, pump stations, and obviously the treatment plant. So that experience is great. Thank you.
Okay. Communication within your department and across department lines is very important. What methods would you use to communicate with your employees, and how would you involve them in the decision-making process?
Well, what I do now, and I've always done, is basically a weekly meeting, and that's not necessarily in my office. I like to go out into the field and meet with my direct reports at their place, whether it's a wastewater treatment plant, or the highway garage, or a property management division. I said that I have seven direct reports, so I meet with them at least once a week. And I'll go out and do inspections. I'm in the field a lot, so I get to talk to the guys, my direct reports, as well as the workers on a daily, weekly basis. It's rare that I won't get out and see, most of them during the course of the week. So I like to engage, and that's the secret, I think, to the harmony and just making things work. Is engage with everybody. I can't get enough. I don't care if it's somebody at the cemetery who digs the holes, cuts the trees, whatever department it is, they always have something to say. And there's always a different perspective that I pick up, and that's what I'm keen on, is a collaborative approach. I don't know everything, but between everybody, bring it all together and bring out the best. That's how I like to keep the communication open. It's a mandatory weekly meeting. And I like to go out in the field or out to their office and meet with them at their plants. And that just changes everything instead of them coming to my office. As far as management style, I like to use management by objectives. So we set a plan up. I used to have it where I actually did job costing and tracked every single task that was done through our payroll system, but I haven't been too successful with that in the town of Adams, because we just changed over to a new payroll system. From the Munis system, we went to Harper's payroll, but I was tracking each task and how much time was being spent on everything in order to come up with a matrix of performance, in order to, to analyze what performance was based upon that. And I use that in a yearly plan. We come up with objectives that we want to meet for that year. A lot of things are repetitive with objectives for each year that's new, whether it's a construction project or I'm going to try to get ahead every single year with something new.
Robert, how many employees are underneath you?
23.
Directly deal with?
There's 23 total. So I have 7 direct reports, working foreman, operations supervisor for the highway, and then we have the chief mechanic, and then I have a working foreman for parks and grounds, which includes cemeteries. I have a direct report, administrative assistant. And then I have 2 other reports. I have the transfer station direct report with recycling, and also a property management direct report. So a total of 7, total of 23.
We lost you again, Robert.
Your sound went out again.
I have a total of 23 team members, 7 direct reports.
I did hear that you mentioned, I think you said solid waste handling.
Yes, yep.
The town provide that for the residents?
No, it's more of a recycling. So the residents pay for a sticker and they bring their recycling and trash, but we do not have a collection throughout the town. That's done privately, and that's brought, through Casella Waste. So we just deal with recycling, and we do some trash collection here also. It's a dual screen system, so we have plastics and glass. We have cardboard, and then waste, and then we have brush, we have metal, and then we have some other collection areas too for light bulbs and hazardous waste, some kinds of hazardous waste.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, are we ready for the next question?
Yes.
Yep, I'm all set. Thanks.
All right. Communication within your department and across department lines is very important. What methods would you use to communicate with your employees, and how would you involve them in the decision-making process?
Again, engagement. Whether it's in the field or in a meeting, I like to engage everybody. So trainings are done on a regular basis. Confined space training, I have certification in that. I do trainings as much as I can, whether it's chainsaw training or the basics. Keep my crews in training and meeting with them. It's basically communication, going in the field and watching, as they're doing work. If it's in the cemetery, watching how they do that and just go over and talk about it and ask for their input and find out their take, their perspectives on things, and then do that with as many of my teammates as I possibly can, because that gives them encouragement, it's praise and recognition, and again, engagement is the key to getting a strong team, to getting your people involved, letting them know that you're interested in what they think and what they do, and that makes a huge difference. And it's so easy to do. You just have to go out in the field and be with them for a while. So that's how I do it. I'll even go out and work with it. I mean, I love picking up a shovel and working it, but I can run into trouble with the union on that. So.
Any follow-on questions? Can you describe your experience in preparing a departmental operating budget and monitoring cost or expenditures for adherence to established financial goals and objectives?
I've got about 5 years at the municipal level. Town of Holliston, I had my own budget there for the public facilities, and for the town of Adams, I've been through 2 cycles there now. We've been at level funding, so that hasn't been too difficult. But I did work for the state of Maine as a program fiscal officer, where I was in charge of a $120 million budget. So I have extensive experience with that. I'm an expert in Excel. I can use cubes, and I synthesize data, not just this is what you have, but to come up with an analysis broken up by month what they should be spending. If it's straight line, say you got $120,000 to spend over the course of a year. If it's straight line, you might be looking at $10,000 each month, but it may be a situation where you're going to buy up front. It's going to be front loaded, so you might be expecting to spend all $120,000 in the first month. So I synthesize that data and make it easy so that those that are reading it can look at it. And I'll use, there's a feature in Excel that will highlight it, get the name of it, but it'll make it turn red if it's within or outside of a range, so that you don't even have, the people looking at the budgets don't even have to work. You can just see if it's colored red, that they know that they're off target in terms of their expenditures. So I make it as easy as possible as they can.
Robert, what's your experience? This is kind of a follow-up question on this question, with presenting in front of, city council or, for example, water commission, DPW board. What's your experience in that regard, or what experiences do you have?
As far as the board?
As far as, like, how often do you do that now for the town of North Adams?
What? Meet with boards?
Yeah, meet with boards, present the budget to city council, defend the budget.
Yep. Right, like I attend the Board of Selectmen meeting weekly, every Wednesday. I'm on the park commission, so that's every month meeting. I'm also part of the trench inspector and backup forest warden. Also on the safety committee and the transportation committee. So I'm on all kinds of different boards. And so I have a lot of experience of presenting, whether it's financial data or capital requests or analysis, the status of where we are in terms of our overtime budget, our salt shed, where do we stand on that, how much have we used, all kinds of analysis. I can perform it, and I'm an expert with Excel. I can create any graph and make any visual you want. I'm dangerous with GIS. I know enough to be dangerous there. And working with the MS4 project now, and also grants. I put in for a number of grants, including FEMA, the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust Asset Management Plant, and I did some other grants for our cemeteries to come up with some grants for expenses.
That's great. Thank you very much for explaining that.
Robert, within the budgeting process, these are enterprise funded departments. And clearly we have, call it fluctuating revenue streams that go up and down with usage and whatnot. If your, call it revenue stream or budget goes down, what was your methodology in building a budget that was going to meet that financial target? How did you actually take dollars out of, your various accounts to meet that budget demand or target?
Well, if it's an enterprise fund, it's like its own entity, its own business. For instance, sewer, we don't have one yet, but it's in the works right now, the sewer enterprise. So it's all in planning. You're going to have a portion in there for your capital expectations, for rehabbing the plant 20 years down the road. You got to plan for that. As far as the costs, depending upon the methodology that you use to bill out, if it's usage based or non-usage based, will make a difference there. If people are paying for the usage, then you've got a piece that might be limited, where billing everybody in town that has a dwelling. So you've got a larger base to deal with. So in short, the answer is plan to foresee that shortage coming and catch it before it does. And I think that's the key to that. With an enterprise, you've got to stay ahead of it and see where you're going, what the expectations and costs are. The regular maintenance shouldn't change that much. You've got your personnel and you've got your regular routine. It's those unforeseen things. But in a wastewater plant, you should know in advance what the expectations are. It's just like vehicles. What is your capital requirements for vehicles? You should know 5 years in advance what vehicle is going down or expected to go down. So it's all planned. Hopefully that answered your question. But
Yeah, no, you're thinking about it correctly. Thank you.
Any follow-on questions for Mr. Tober? Okay. Can you please share with us an example of how you helped to coach or mentor someone? What improvements did you see in the person's knowledge or skill?
I'll use a rather unique example. I worked for Pine Street Inn for a while, and we had a social enterprise there. We actually trained the homeless, and I spearheaded the training for a CNC router. We used to make cutting boards and all kinds of new things, and I would train the homeless on this. The CNC is pretty difficult. You gotta know depth and width and designs. There's all kinds of things to it. But these are men that some of them have never held a job before, and so just to bring them in and treat them the basics. And again, as I said, this is the third time I'm going to say it, like engagement. Work with people, train them hand in hand, and they will just open up. And that's how I do it in everything that I work with. Any kind of problem or situation, I engage up front, personal, in their face. And that's what I did here at Boston Handiworks. I taught the homeless on a CNC router. We made cutting boards, engravings. We made all kinds of beautiful projects. And some of these guys who never had jobs before, they were doing some incredible things, and all because of engagement, that praise and recognition. The time that I gave to them, they opened up like a flower.
Yeah. Can you describe for us your experience in labor management relations, including negotiating, administering labor contracts, and working with unionized employees?
Well, for the town of Adams, we had two unions, Union AFL-CIO, Council 93, for the clerical unit, and local 204, State Council number 93. That was for DPW, highway, and wastewater. So that contract renews July 1st. I was involved in in that we're basically looking at a percentage increase in a few other things, but I've been involved in grievances. We've had a number of grievances, especially when we were changing over our payroll system from Munis, which was an antiquated time card system, to Harper's Payroll, where we used a fraud to punch in, and we had all kinds of grievances filed there. So I was involved in all of those partakings of the grievances. And again, it's working alongside and talking with them as we go. And foreseeing any upcoming problems, that's key, is really to talk in advance to people. Are there any upcoming problems, any issues, and catch them before they start developing the big problems. And that's been my strategy in dealing with the union, but it's been a very good one.
Any follow-on questions?
No.
Can you please describe your experience working with diverse personnel issues?
I'm trained in conflict resolution. I'm certified in that. And so I use an 8-step procedure in dealing with that. And again, it's communication. To find out what the problem is, their perspectives, and then tackle those, deal with those, and come up with solutions. What is your perspective on resolving this issue? What would you like to do in terms of a resolution? Or what do you see as the resolution involved? Get them involved in it so now they take ownership of that and come up with the solution problem. Document it if you have to, but when they create the solution to the problem as they see it, and it works with management, now they've got buy-in and it works. That's what I use is conflict resolution. And again, it's engaging with people.
Any follow-on questions?
Robert, I think one of the challenges of working within a union environment is obviously living to the letter of the contract. Tell me about a time when you were not able to gain consensus on a new idea or initiative, but got folks involved and got them to do what it is you were trying to do, that while, it may not have been clearly defined in the language in the CBA.
Well, in all the grievances that I've been involved, we've always come up with a solution through the grievance process. When it went that far, I can't say what situations I've had that might have gone to grievances that we were able to head off before they became them, because who knows where it would have gone. But again, knowing if something's on the radar system, dealing with it before it gets to the grievance. And I think that I've had very good luck with that in our stewards, to keep a regular communication with them. Where do we stand now? How are things going? Are there any problems? And as soon as you hear something, you got to deal with it like it's a big one, because it could very well become one. And that's, again, it's communication, dealing with these problems before they become problems. When they're still small, and work with you. The union will work with you. Sure, they want their time, they want their money, they want their labor reserved for them, but that's fine. You just have to work with them, and there's harmony. And don't ever let it get out where that harmony is broken, because it's almost impossible to get it out.
Thank you. Good answer.
Okay, and last, we're interviewing several candidates. Why should we choose you?
Well, I can sit here and say I've got, 25 years of experience, technical experience, all this and that, but the bottom line is I'm a person, I'm a people person. Those interpersonal relationships are probably my strong point, dealing with people, because that's where it all is. As a director, there are two main functions, and I think the first and foremost is supporting your team, and then secondly, providing direction. If your team members failed, then I've failed, because I haven't supported them. And that's what I bring here, is that interpersonal connection with my teammates, and that's how I work. It's from a team perspective. I get my 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 culture code is cooperative, innovative, and cohesive. I like SIC people, CIC, cooperative, innovative, and cohesive. That's what I shoot for in a culture, and that's what I look to get. And as a people person, that's what I'm after. The technical aspect, that's all there. You can see it in my resume, it's all there, but that's the forefront of what I bring to you.
Okay, do we have any follow-on questions for Mr. Tober?
Robert, do you hold any licenses and or certifications that would be applicable to water or wastewater?
No, I can't say that I don't right now, but with the pandemic, I was unable to get my wastewater. I would have, but they didn't offer the classes. They still don't now. I think they're starting to do it, but I would commit to getting that within the first 18 months and go up, right up the line as needed. So, no, I don't.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tober, we'd like to thank you for your participation this evening. Obviously, we'll need a few days to kind of hash everything out here and figure out the path forward. But again, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Robert.
much, Robert.
To the committee, we'll take a 5-minute break to Mr. Kelvin Ridgely. We'll get started around 9:15 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Good afternoon, guys.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Great.
Awesome. So if everybody's ready, we'll get started. Mr. Ridgely, can you please tell us about your background, education, and experience, and how these make you qualified for this position?
Well, I mean, I can tell you all about the DPW director position that I held in the city of Baker for some time. Just working with the community and just satisfying them, which I think is the most important task as the DPW director. Outside of the inner workings as far as sewer, water, and gas. Just making sure that the individuals that actually live inside of the community feel comfortable and feel safe whenever you make a promise to them.
Okay. Can you walk us through your experience with inclement weather and/or snow operations?
Well, I don't have any snow operations, but as I'm sure you guys know, I'm really battle tested when it comes to hurricanes and tornadoes and, flooding and things of that sort, because we deal with that quite often here in Louisiana. So I don't have any snow operations, but I didn't have any hurricane operations experience either before I took that job. And nothing beats a lesson like a hard lesson.
Any follow-on questions?
I guess, Kelvin, how would you deal with, or how did you deal with, the growing pains of, I guess down there it's hurricanes, but, how would you deal with them up here with snow removal?
Well, I think just being out in what I would call the trenches with the guys, the only way you can understand it is to actually be there and actually see it, being that I have that direct experience, just actually getting out there with the guys, which also helps to build those relationships that I want to have.
Thank you.
Okay. Our Public Works Department has several diverse sub-departments. Amongst them are water, highway, land, natural resources, many others. What area of public works do you have the least experience with, and what would you do to remedy this?
I would say parks and recreation. And, the answer to that is the same thing, as it pertains to the snow. Just getting out there and just finding out what's going on firsthand. One of the things that I did when I initially took the position at the city of Baker is, I just got out there with my boots and, the guys wanted to know, hey, what's this guy doing? He's the director. Doesn't he have other things to do? But I would set aside a time to actually go out there with those guys and just find out what's going on, firsthand, to see how they do things. So in order to combat my lack of knowledge for parks and recreation, I would actually go out and, make those relationships and communicate with the individuals that are actually working in that department.
Any follow-on questions?
So, Kelvin, as it relates to Baker, is there municipal water and or sewer present in the community?
Yes, sir, there is. We don't treat our own sewer. We actually have pumping stations. We will pump it to the nearby city and then they would treat it.
How about water?
Water, we just have water towers. We actually outsourced our water treatment. We took it away from being in-house because the qualifications were changing almost daily for us, and, some of our staff had gotten older, and you need a certain amount of individuals to have those certifications. So myself and the mayor, we thought it would be a good idea to just outsource it, and I was able to, find money within the budget so that, we didn't go over budget when we made that decision.
What are the sources? Is it groundwater, surface water?
It's groundwater.
Groundwater?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Communication within your department and across department lines is really important. What methods would you use to communicate with your employees, and how would you involve them in the decision-making process?
Well, as the public works director, I think a lot of times individuals come in and they assume that the title means that they know everything about the job, and that's not the case in most cases. I think having those guys' input is actually what makes a public works director great. It's a team environment. One person doesn't come in and make all of these things happen. While he or she is the face of that department, it takes the team in order to make it go. So without those guys and getting their input and building those relationships with them, I don't think a public works director will have success.
Any follow-on questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Please.
Hi. How would you prioritize a budget difference within, like, say, between water and sewer, and you have a limited amount of money? How would you prioritize which one gets the funding?
Well, that's a good question. It's one of those things where you have to, as the saying goes, rob Peter to pay Paul. You have to make a decision. You have to prioritize, should I say. You have to look at the inner workings if maybe you can patch one to get to the next budget year, or, a decision just has to be made on the severity of both of them. And then that's when you have to prioritize the decision.
All right, thank you.
Kelvin, how many staff did you report under you when you were with Baker?
80 guys. 80 guys and 4 supervisors.
Thank you.
Back to the communication question. So tell me about a time when you had to deliver a difficult feedback to a report, and what was the result of that feedback? What influence did it have?
Well, just like any other situation, initially there's probably going to be a little pushback. Nobody really cares for change. Nobody really cares for accountability these days. So initially there's always a little pushback, but I think if you build those relationships, they'll know that it's coming from a place of love, or, a place of caring. I think the relationships allow you to have those difficult conversations and they not be combative.
All right, thank you.
Can you describe your experience in preparing a departmental operating budget and monitoring cost expenditures for adherence to established financial goals and objectives?
Okay, yes. Within the city of Baker, just with the municipality budget, I've done that for about 4 years. We use a lot of Excel. So whenever the budgets are getting close to that cap, they'll turn yellow in the program that I use. And whenever the budget is exceeded, it'll turn red. So, we would have a weekly budget meeting just to make sure that we're all on par and we're all shooting for the stars, and just making sure everybody is on the same page when it comes to spending habits.
How would you handle, or I guess how have you handled, I'm assuming you have because you said the cells go red, but budget? And what tools do you use to, I guess, when you've already gone too far? How do you remedy the situation?
Well, then you have to start operating that budget like some of us operate our lives. You have to start moving money around and doing things that you didn't think you would have to do. So, for example, you may take money out of office supplies, and then you may have a conversation with your office manager to let he or she know that we're not going to get those colored pens. We're just going to use the old ones that we have. I think it comes to a situation like that in those cases when those sales decide to turn red, for those unforeseen, instances that we all know come about.
Okay, thank you.
Can you share with us an example of how you helped to coach or mentor someone? What improvements did you see in the person's skills and knowledge?
Well, if it's okay, I'll use the entire department, if you don't mind, for this question. When I took over at the city of Baker, the morale was really low. And, you could tell that nobody had, really pat these guys on the back, just told them that they were doing a good job. And I think as a department as a whole, they needed that, so to come in and actually pick them up and tell them that they're doing a great job was something that they hadn't heard in years. And with that being done, those guys would do anything I would ask them to do. If there was weekend work or if there was evening work, and I would call those guys, they wouldn't hesitate to come because they knew that I would go to bat for them. So they didn't see me as just a director. They saw me as a fellow teammate, to a certain degree. If that answers your question.
Any follow-on questions?
Unrelated. Go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Kind of unrelated, but what's the city structure in Baker? I heard you reference mayor. Is there a council or a board of selectmen, or what is the charter, so to speak, of Baker?
There is a council, and then there's the mayor, and then there's the assistant mayor. The assistant mayor retired probably about a year within me taking the position as DPW director. So since then, until my last day there, I was acting as assistant mayor as well as DPW director. So I worked a lot with the council members and I worked a lot with the mayor.
Yeah, that's was gonna be my follow-up question. So give me some examples of your time in front of council to call it sell a budget, or generally, how was your success with that?
Okay, well, I've presented budgets in front of the council. I've presented at least every other council. There's a presentation that I'm doing about public works, whether it be informative or whether it be something that the community has just asked about. We would call it burning questions. I've had several cameos on the local news. The mayor also has his own TV show that he has once a week, where I've made appearances on there to discuss different action items.
How big was the council?
The council was 10.
10. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Going back to the original question, and how you've helped coach or mentor someone. If you have someone within the department who's struggling, not necessarily doing their job correctly, or they don't want to do their job, but they're just struggling with some issue. How would you handle them on a one-on-one basis and not so much the entire team basis?
Well, the first thing I think you do when you feel like an individual is coming up short, I think you retrain. I think that's always the first thing you do, which is retrain. And then once you retrain, then I think you can hold that individual accountable at that point. But the most important thing is just building those relationships to find out what's actually going on. Because a lot of times it's things that are going on at home, things that are going on outside of work. And I think those are the things that separate good from great when you're talking about a director of public works. Getting to know that individual, knowing that, his kid is causing him problems at home, so he may be a little frustrated and he may just need somebody to vent to. A lot of times we just need to go the extra mile as leaders.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Can you please describe your experience in labor management relations, including negotiating and administering labor contracts and working with unionized employees?
Okay, well, at the beginning of my resume, you'll see Capital Area Transit System. It was my first opportunity to work with the union. And, I want to let you know that I really screwed that up, guys. I had a situation where I was not versed with that contract, and I tried to pull the trigger per se on a decision, and it did not go good. So as I referenced earlier in the conversation, nothing beats a lesson like a hard lesson. Now at the city of Baker, we go by civil service rules. And I'd like to think that I know that book like the back of my hand now, because I was bitten, early on in my career by not knowing what was going on with the civil service rules.
Any follow-up questions?
So is Baker negotiated? Does it have a collective bargaining agreement? Or is it just?
Yes, it's referred to as civil service. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And anytime something doesn't go right, those guys definitely pull that card.
Sorry.
Can I sneak one in there, Robert? Sorry.
Absolutely, please.
We've talked, Kelvin, a lot about your experience in Baker, but how about your current experience with All South Consulting Engineers? Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, while working for the city of Baker, All South approached me because we worked with them before, and they actually offered me an opportunity to go around and fix public works departments within Louisiana. And it was an opportunity that I just felt like I couldn't pass up. They had noticed my hard work because they know the shape that the city of Baker was in when I initially took the job. And they offered me this opportunity, and I jumped on it because I felt like it was a great idea. I still feel like it was a great idea. The one thing that I'm missing is just working with the community. I don't get that interaction. We'll go to public works departments and we'll assess them and, help them come up with different things to, bring up the morale or, operational type deals. But I just miss that interaction, of fighting those fights every single day. You guys know that when you're working in public works, there's a new fight every day. And I don't have that fight with All South.
Thank you.
Can you please describe your experience working with diverse personnel issues?
I would like to think that my experience working with that is really broad. I have all, types of individuals working for me at the city of Baker when I worked there, older guys, younger guys, diffusing those situations were always interesting, because it's so many different people from so many different walks of life, and during those processes, I would learn things, about different individuals. And, whenever you're working with a guy every day, all day, there's bound to be, some sort of friction. You're seeing this guy every day, you're riding with this guy, so sometimes people just get a little, irritated working with the same person. So, we would move them around and, do different things to try and accommodate everybody, while still satisfying the residents.
Any follow-on questions?
Nothing here, Robert.
Okay, the final one, obviously, we're interviewing several people. It's your chance to stump for yourself. Why should we choose you?
Well, outside of everything on my resume, I think everybody that you're interviewing has probably has the same or better, or, everybody's probably apples to apples. But I think you're getting a proven leader who understands how to motivate people. I'm a 4-year college football guy, and I understand that you don't manage each individual the same way. You have to manage them differently because it takes different things to motivate them. And that comes with building relationships. So you'll get a guy who's overly competitive, who won't stop at any cost when it pertains to winning, because I love to win, meaning the city of Westfield will win. And that's it, guys. I think you're getting an overly competitive guy who's willing to go the extra mile, to reach goals and success.
Okay, any follow-on questions or comments from the committee?
Unrelated to the job.
Okay.
what's your thought about living in the snow and cold belt?
Well, I lived in Chicago in '03 for a little while. I played football for the Rockford River Raptors. So I'm familiar with the snow. Chicago's pretty cold, lots of snow. There I practiced with the Chicago Bears for about 6 months. So I'm familiar with the area, and I have a little family that lives there as well.
Okay. It's just curious. I'll tell you, it's a long way from Louisiana.
Absolutely.
And that's in a lot of ways, but it's
the only thing that'll happen to me, Ron, is that I'll probably lose a little weight.
Yeah. And yeah, I will say that the food is nowhere near as good. Just so we're clear.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, well, Mr. Ridgely, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to meet with us this evening. We'll probably take the next few days to kind of hash out notes and a path forward from the committee and whatever they want to do, and I will reach out to you and let you know what they decided, okay?
Thank you, Robert. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a
Thank
good
you,
evening.
Kelvin.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kelvin.
Thank you, guys.
To the committee, thank you guys very much for taking a very late evening to come interview these candidates. I will touch base with you guys in the morning with an email, but it's basically just going to say to please consolidate your notes, your thoughts, and we'll get the conversation rolling to see if you liked any of these candidates, if you would like to move forward with any of them, so on and so forth. Any questions for me?
Nothing here, Robert.
No.
I have one, Robert.
Please, sir.
Yeah, unfortunately, I missed the first one or whatever, just because of technical issues on my end, technically challenged here. Is there any way to find out how that went, or what should I do?
No, absolutely. Actually, this was recorded. So
Okay,
tomorrow
perfect.
morning, I will shoot you the link because I'm going to be shooting it to Councilor Beltrandi as well. So I will shoot you the link in the morning so you can review that interview.
Perfect.
And be able to make decisions on it.
Great. Okay, super.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm going to bed.
Have a good night.
Have a good
See you
night,
guys.
gentlemen.
Thank you.